As you might have noticed, the channel has been a bit barren from any sort of content for the last couple of years apart from YouTube Shorts. Now these have been a very useful video format for the channel with their 60-second limit, but they've strayed us away from the original idea of the channel. We started out making little reviews and podcasts with a grand plan at the start of the pandemic, but it never really came to fruition. So I guess this video is kind of a throwback to that era of the channel. I've actually been on and off working on this video for over 2 years now. We started writing this video way back in February 2022, and the original recordings were made just 1 month later in March of that year. Somehow I've procrastinated myself into just forgetting to work on it. The last real changes were made back in February 2023, and now to put that into context, at the start of writing, The Batman was merely weeks away from releasing in cinemas, Moon Knight was days away from its premiere episode, and we were still making videos talking about the future of Marvel's Avengers. So, let's go back 3 years ago to when I saw that LEGO Marvel Superheroes was getting a port to the Nintendo Switch. A flood of memories from 2013 came rushing right back to me. Playing this game as a kid was such a fun and memorable experience. I think this was probably my first open world game experience apart from Minecraft, and I think back to playing the game more like GTA than an actual superhero game. Funnily enough, this game was released the same year as GTA 5, but unfortunately hasn't received the same kind of treatment that its Rockstar Games counterpart has, which keeps getting ported to a whole new console generation every couple of years. I'm surprised they haven't tried getting it running on the Switch yet, although it might end up setting people's Switches on fire, so it might be for the best. Maybe they'll finally pull the trigger on the Nintendo port for that game when the Switch 2 releases. Now, I think a proper remaster for this game has probably passed its ideal release window. The LEGO games have entered a more sophisticated era of skill trees and character classes that I don't see them biting the bullet and remastering some more of their older stuff, not to mention the potential licensing and rights issues they could probably run into. I think there's a much higher chance of the next LEGO Marvel Games entry being a full MCU Infinity Saga game in the same type of game style as the Skywalker Saga was. Coming back to this game all these years later really gave me a much more comprehensive view of the game. I could finally go unlock and finish the entire game, which I never did before because I was too engrossed in just messing around with the open world. The game was actually TT Games' third superhero game after LEGO Batman and its sequel LEGO Batman 2 DC Superheroes. In a lot of ways, I feel like this game is a fantastic natural progression from LEGO Batman 2, taking what worked from the open world and improving on its shortcomings. It was released way back in October 2013 alongside a handheld version subtitled Universe in Peril, which was vastly different. It had no open world aspects and was played entirely from a top-down perspective. It was also re-released in 2017 in a LEGO Marvel collection, which included LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1, 2, and LEGO Marvel's Avengers. If you can find this collection on sale or on a great deal and you've never played them before, I think that it's a great purchase, and you can also get all the Season Pass content with the bundle, so you get all the different characters and mission packs included on it. And you can still get this on digital marketplaces, so whenever there's a PlayStation or Steam or Xbox sale and you've never played it before, I really recommend checking it out. Now, time for a piece of random trivia. There was also a 5-part miniseries released alongside the game called LEGO Marvel Superheroes Maximum Overload, which had a mix of the voice actors from the game and others from various Marvel TV shows. It even had J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in it.
And that's Spider-Man! He must have overloaded Doc Ock himself just so he could look good when he beat him!
The game's locked to 30 FPS on all consoles apart from the Xbox Series S and X, where it's been updated to run up to 60 and 120 FPS respectively with its modern FPS boost technology. I never really had a problem playing it at 30 FPS, especially when I was younger when that really didn't bother me much. It's not something I'm too accustomed to nowadays with modding games mostly being 60 FPS, but it runs pretty stable on the Switch considering its hardware limitations, but of course the game did release 4 years earlier than the Switch itself. The core gameplay follows a similar formula to nearly every other LEGO game. Each character has their own abilities from the comics, which they can use to solve puzzles throughout every level. This translates over to the free roam as well, where you can use all the different characters' abilities to unlock more content. A lot of the time, it's just using Iron Man's lasers, or breaking objects as large characters such as the Hulk. It can feel especially repetitive towards the end of the story, but to be honest, I didn't have as much as a problem with it in the open world because of the much larger roster you have available to you. In terms of general level design, I think that the story missions can become quite repetitive, but this is just a general problem with LEGO games as a whole. I realize and appreciate that this game is primarily made for kids, but the basic gameplay loop can be boiled down to doing the same abilities every mission to work your way to the final boss, who is usually just mashed to death in between small survival phases or puzzles. The real standout from the game's design is how most of the characters feel really unique to each other, bar a few echo characters. Something that really distinguishes them are their distinctive animations that really bring them to life and gives the game so much more character and highlights the notable attention to detail from the developers. They all have combo moves and a variety of finisher moves that reinforces the clear love the developers had for the characters of the game. This was one of the first LEGO games with actual voice acting, so in some ways they had to cover for the lack of charm the weird mumbling noises they previously used added to the games. But I think they did a good job adding a new kind of personality with the little animations. As for the voice cast, it's full of a lot of the usual suspects you'd expect from Marvel voice acting, as well as Clark Gregg reprising his role as Agent Coulson from the MCU. I think they all do a pretty good job and sound their parts with the pretty minimal amount of dialogue present. The main story is fairly simple. You fight various different villains from the Marvel universe as you try to stop Doctor Doom collecting all the cosmic bricks he needs to create a Doomray. Each mission follows the same linear progression as all the other LEGO games, with the ability to collect mini-kits and gold bricks in each level, and the open world as well. I like a lot of the locations the missions are set in. Over the course of the game, it expands from just New York into a worldwide and then fully outer space adventure. By the end of the game, you fight Galactus, who is under Loki's control, which unlocks the disappointing Galactus character. Throughout the game, you get to unlock 180 different characters from across the Marvel universe, plus you also have the option to make your own custom characters. I kinda miss this feature in LEGO games. I would always mess around with the different combinations you could make. It's a shame that they removed this to sell more DLC character packs in the Skywalker saga. This is also the only LEGO game to have the X-Men and the Fantastic Four both present, due to company politics involving the film rights to the characters being with Fox, and then people within Disney not wanting to inadvertently promote other companies' movies. And that's why they started pushing the Inhumans a lot during that era of the mid-2010s. There's a deep roster of heroes that brings a lot of the corners of the Marvel universe together. I was surprised that they included a few more obscure characters and teams at the time, like Moon Knight and Squirrel Girl, but I absolutely love that the game gives you this opportunity to play as these really unique and at the time obscure characters. Despite the MCU being fairly new compared to where it is today, it has a really odd influence on this game. Most of the main characters' designs are based on their MCU versions, and plenty of the open world has large inspirations from the movies. There's even a whole DLC character pack purely based on Thor: The Dark World. I suppose it's a good thing that the game can pull inspiration from more mediums than just the comics, but there's this really weird contrast with the MCU designs and the purely comic-based designs for other characters. We can't talk about this game without going into more detail about the open world. You always had the opportunity to explore it before completing the main story, but mostly just as a connector between missions where you ran between locations to start a new mission. There are plenty of iconic Marvel locations to find, including the X-Mansion, Stark Tower, the Baxter Building, a fully explorable helicarrier, and Feast, and plenty more. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of side missions and activities which when completed unlock new characters and gold bricks. There's a funny little reoccurring activity in a lot of the missions and the open world where you have to save Stan Lee from loads of different funny little situations he's in, and after completing all 50, you actually unlock him as a playable character, and he's got like a mishmash of other characters' powers. The side missions are also unlocked from collecting gold bricks, and they're considerably shorter than the main story missions, but they also unlock new characters for you as well. Similarly to the other LEGO games, you can collect mini-kits hidden throughout each level to unlock bonus features to be used outside the levels. In this game's case, you can unlock different comics that can be read in Deadpool's quarters on the helicarrier. Another thing you can do is unlock new vehicles to travel around the city with. I think most of them are fairly inconsequential and impractical because you can just fly or swing around the city as one of the characters or even fast travel. But there are a few of the cars that are pretty fun to use, like driving around as Ghost Rider or the Punisher is actually pretty fun. A lot of the unlockables add hours of extra content to the game and so much replayability. It's very fun to try and 100% the whole thing. The whole city just feels alive. You can hear the civilians talking about different characters and events as you run around. The LEGO open worlds have never really got to the heights that these early games had. Now it's either a blended up world of multiple locations mashed together, or a bunch of hub worlds with fast travelling via the menus. They lack the charm and the quirky personality of the LEGO'd Manhattan. And of course, I can't forget to mention the soundtrack. The music that plays during free roam has such a great whimsical and adventurous vibe to it that accompanies the little LEGO people running around perfectly. And then you get those great bombastic, epic scores when you're jumping off the helicarrier and diving down into the city. I wish they gave this game a similar post-launch treatment to its sequels. The only DLC were 2 character packs, the Super Pack and the Asgard Pack. The only thing aside from new characters you got were like 10 new races with the Super Pack. I will say though, the characters you get from that are really fun, especially Thanos. The other one is just characters from the Dark World like I said earlier, and it's not really that interesting. So there were a couple of sequels to this game. One of them wasn't really narratively a sequel, but a fully MCU themed story called LEGO Marvel Adventures, with a very similar themed gameplay and small gameplay changes. The other is the actual sequel, LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2. I've not played either of these. I do own Superheroes 2, but I've never even bothered to open it yet. But I do know it came with a bunch of DLCs, and I have had a look through some of them, including some level packs based on MCU movies. If the first game had some of the same treatment here, with all of these DLC levels, it could have taken the game to a whole other level of bonus content. Now, after years of rewrites and stalling, it's kind of weird getting to this part of the video finally. It's probably not really that long of a video, and I might sound pretty dramatic right now, but it's nice to finally get this one over the line after such a stop-start time on the channel. I've had a lot of fun coming back to this game over the last few years. This whole game has such a great abundance of character and personality to it. It's so vibrant and colourful, with a real celebration of what makes Marvel, and I guess comics as a whole, so appealing and charming. I love the open world. I think back to my first memories of games, and one of them was LEGO Batman on the DS. I always used to get excited at being able to travel between the different sections in Wayne Manor and the Batcave, and then you could also visit Arkham Asylum too. I never knew characters like Moon Knight, Gambit, Taskmaster, even Howard the Duck were in this game when I played it years ago. It's such an impressive task to have all of these characters and make them all feel unique to themselves. It makes this game feel so special to play, and to unlock them all feels very worthwhile. I think this game is still incredible in 2024. Maybe it hasn't aged the best, and newer games have completely redefined the LEGO games genre, but there is still so much sauce in LEGO Marvel Superheroes that none of that really matters. It has the classic LEGO game formula you can't go wrong with, hours of replayability, and extra content that keeps you engrossed, great attention to detail to really bring the characters to life, and most importantly, it still holds up as one of the most entertaining superhero video games to this day. Hopefully after over 2 years working on this video, I can get some closure on this project. I guess life just gets in the way, but this game will always take me back to remembering the 11-year-old me sitting on my cramped bedroom floor on my Xbox 360 running around New York City as my favourite superheroes. Except Batman. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here today, then please consider subscribing to catch our other content as and when it releases.